George Gissing, My Books. As often as I survey my bookshelves, I am reminded of Lamb's Ragged Veterans. Not that all my volumes came from the second-hand stall. Many of them were neat enough in new covers. Some were even stately in fragrant bindings when they passed into my hands. But so often have I removed, so rough has been the treatment of my little library at each change of place, and, to tell the truth, so little care have I given to its well-being at normal times, for in all practical matters I am idle and inept, that even the comeliest of my books show the results of unfair usage. More than one has been foully injured by a great nail driven into a packing case. This but the extreme instance of the wrongs they have undergone. Now that I have leisure and peace of mind, I find myself growing more careful, an illustration of the great truth that virtue is made easy by circumstance. But I confess that, so long as a volume hold together, I am not much troubled as to its outer appearance. I know men who say they had as least read any book in a library copy as in one from their own shelf. To me, that is unintelligible. For one thing, I know every book of mine by its scent, and I have but to put my nose between the pages to be reminded of all sorts of things. My Gibbon, for example, my well-bound 8-volume Milman edition, which I have read and read and read again for more than 30 years, never do I open it but the scent of the noble page restores to me all the exultant happiness of that moment when I received it as a prize. Or my Shakespeare, the great Cambridge Shakespeare. It has an odor which carries me yet further back in life, for these volumes belonged to my father, and before I was old enough to read them with understanding, it was often permitted me, as a treat, to take down one of them from the bookcase, and reverently to turn the leaves. The volumes smells exactly as they did in that old time, and what a strange tenderness comes upon me when I hold one of them in hand. For that reason, I do not often read Shakespeare in this edition. My eyes being good as ever, I take the Globe volume, which I bought in days when such a purchase was something more than an extravagance. Wherefore I regard the book with that peculiar affection which results from sacrifice. Sacrifice, in no drawing-room sense of the word. Dozens of my books were purchased with money which ought to have been spent upon what are called the necessaries of life. Many a time I have stood before a stall or a bookseller's window, torn by conflict of intellectual desire and bodily need. At the very hour of dinner, when my stomach clamored for food, I have been stopped by sight of a volume so long coveted and marked at so advantageous a price that I could not let it go. Yet to buy it meant pangs of famine. My Haynes Tibullus was grasped at such a moment. It lay on the stall of the old bookshop in Goodge Street, a stall where now and then one found an excellent thing among quantities of rubbish. 6 pence was the price. 6 pence! At that time, I used to eat my midday meal, of course my dinner, at a coffee shop in Oxford Street, one of the real old coffee shops, such as now, I suppose, can hardly be found. 6 pence was all I had. Yes, all I had in the world. It would purchase a plate of meat and vegetables. But I did not dare to hope that the Tibullus would wait until the morrow, when a certain small sum fell due to me. I paced the pavement, fingering the coppers in my pocket, eyeing the stall, two appetites at combat within me. The book was bought and I went home with it, and as I made a dinner of bread and butter, I gloated over the pages. Joy in the purchase I had made drove out every other thought. Years after, I sold my first edition of Gibbon for even less than it cost me. It went with a great many other fine books in folio and quarto, which I could not drag about with me in my constant removals. The man who bought them spoke of them as tombstones. Why has Gibbon no market value? Often has my heart ached with regret for those quartos. The joy of reading the decline and fall in that fine type. The page was appropriate to the dignity of the subject. The mere sight of it tuned one's mind. I suppose I could easily get another copy now, but it would not be to me what that other was, with its memory of dust and toil.